warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Agustina Saputri. You can call me Tina. I am a student of 11 Maret University in major Office Administration Education. On this occasion, I will present a topic entitled The Role of the State in Protecting Human Rights in Indonesia. Human rights are rights inherent in a person that no one can interfere with. In essence, human rights consist of two fundamental rights, namely the right to equality and the right to freedom. The derivative rights include all basic rights, such as the right to life, the right to have an opinion, the right to have religion, the right to a decent livelihood, plus the right to equality before the law, property rights, and the right to intellectual property. In the life of a country, discrimination against a person's human rights occurs even more every year. Usually, in the context of democracy, we talk about individual freedom, but in practice, sometimes freedom of behavior is limited by the law and its sanctions, so that freedom appears to against the law. In the modern view, individual freedom is only limited to the extent that a law has the power to compel, to dictate, and perform certain actions. Therefore, the role of the state in protecting human rights is also accountable for the creation of justice and prosperity in social life. To fulfill its role in protecting human rights and creating conditions conducive to the enforcement of human rights, the Indonesian government needs to make several efforts. The following are some of the efforts to uphold human rights in Indonesia are: first, establishment of the National Human Rights Commission, or we call it Komnas HAM. Komnas HAM was established on 7 June 1993 through Presidential Decree number 50 of 1993. The existence of Komnas HAM is further regulated by Law of the Republic Indonesia number 39 of 1999. Komnas HAM is one of the independent human rights enforcement institutions at the level of other state institutions that functions as an institution for human rights assessment, research, counseling, monitoring, and mediation. Any citizen who feels their human rights have been violated may make a complaint to Komnas HAM. The complaint must be accompanied by reasons, either in writing or orally, and the correct identity of complainant. Second, establishment of human rights instruments. Human rights instruments are tools to ensure the protection and enforcement of human rights. Human rights instruments are usually in the form of law and regulation and human rights enforcement institutions, such as the National Human Rights Commission and Human Rights Court. Human rights instruments in the form of laws and regulation are established to ensure legal certainty and provide direction in process of enforcing human rights. Third, establishment of Human Rights Court. The Human Rights Court was established by Law of the Republic Indonesia number 26 of 2000. Human rights courts are special courts for gross human rights violations and expect to protect human rights, both individuals and communities, and become the basis for enforcement, legal certainty, justice, and a feeling of security, both individual and communities. In addition to enforcement efforts, the state also has a role to make efforts to prevent violations of human rights, to create conditions conducive to respecting human rights persuasively. These efforts include: number one, upholding the rule of and democracy. The legal approach and dialogical approach must be put forward in order to involve community participation in the life of the nation and state. Law enforcement officials must fulfill their obligation and providing good and fair service to the community, providing protection to everyone from unlawful acts, and avoiding unlawful acts of violence in order to enforce the law. Number two, improve the quality of public service to prevent various forms of human rights violations by the government. Number three, increase monitoring, from the public and political institution on every human rights enforcement efforts made by the government. Number 4, increase the dissemination of human rights principles to the public through formal and non-formal educational institutions. Number 5, improve the professionalism of national security and defense institutions. And the last, promote harmonious cooperation between groups in society in order to understand and respect each other's beliefs and options. But despite all that, there are still many shortcomings that Indonesian government must fix. These shortcomings are found in the implementation process. Many regulations are not properly implemented by our law enforcement officers. In addition, the institutions that have been created to protect human rights are functioning properly, so that these institutions are not made in vain and are not just a complement to the constitutional system but function for benefit of the Indonesian people. Until here, the discussion about the role of the state in protecting human rights in Indonesia. I apologize if there are any word mistakes. Hopefully it will be useful. Thank you.